even after the loss to the Ravens on Monday Night Football, the Chargers, I think, are still a good team. I just think we might have been too quick to crown them a great team.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, going into the season, the Chargers had a lot of problems, a lot of issues that they had to correct. And by all accounts, Joe Ortiz did a fantastic job doing everything he could to put this team in the best position to succeed. But were we, the media and the fans, too big on the Chargers, hyping them up, making them maybe be a little bit better than they are? And is it time to give up on Quentin Johnston? Definitely not. I'm not going to buy that one, not at all. And do the Chargers have what it takes to win 11 games this season?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. There's definitely a route to it. I mean, 11 wins basically guarantees you a playoff spot, but after we saw on the Chargers on Monday night, we know that they're not a flawless team and they can lose. But you guys can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. David, it is Buy or Sell Wednesday today. Obviously, since Monday Night Football, things getting shuffled around a little bit. But it is time to get into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. And when you lose a game like the one the Chargers did, especially a humbling loss, I think like the one that they suffered, a lot of overreactions are going to fly around, and it creates a lot more kind of new storylines for this team after they went on that 4-game winning streak and they were riding high and it felt like they could do no wrong. But it starts off simple, David. The buy or sell is this. Buy or sell, the Chargers aren't as good as we thought they were.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I have to buy this one. And the reason why I have to buy it is, hey, yeah, they were 5-12 last year, and they're 7-4 through 11 games, which is fantastic. But here's the unfortunate truth. The Chargers haven't beaten a plus 500 team since December 11th, 2022, when they beat the 8-4 Dolphins. They have not beaten a good football team in
they beat the
almost
Broncos this year,
2
right?
seasons. Yeah, but I'm not counting the Broncos, to be honest with you.
Sure.
I came into the season expecting to beat the Broncos twice. Yeah, they look like a better football team now than they did when the Chargers played them, but you can only play the teams that are on your schedule. And at least when the Chargers played the Dolphins were unequivocally a top team in the AFC at that moment in time.
Totally.
That was probably the best defensive performance that we've ever seen from Brandon Staley's Chargers while he was the head coach of the Chargers. And that's really the last time they've had any kind of, decent win against a, more than plus 500 football team. So, yeah, up to this point, the Chargers have not beaten anybody that has had a plus 500 record up to this point this season. And it's just the same thing from the last year. When you have the opportunity to meet the moment and beat the good teams and make a statement and say that you are one of those good teams, they have not been able to answer that call.
Yeah, and I think as far as just the Chargers and the hype surrounding them, I mean, I wanted to pick the Chargers to lose the Ravens, but admittedly, I drank a little too much of the Kool-Aid too, right? I got behind this team and Jim Harbaugh, and it's not like they didn't have a chance to win, but I think you just saw what the separation was between them and what the great teams are. I mean, there's something to be said about beating all of the bad teams and beating the teams that you're supposed to beat on your schedule, and that was never a given under any of the Chargers head coaches since Marty Schottenheimer. So I don't take that for granted. There is a legitimate case for the Chargers being a good to very good team, but they're not a great team yet. And I think we just got, a little bit too inflated on the wins against teams like the Raiders, the Panthers, the Broncos, the Saints, the Browns, the Titans, and the Bengals.
A nice cold glass of reality.
Right. And the Broncos are more legit than we thought they were, right? And now after they've been able to do it as long as they have this deep into the season, they look like a better team, and that looks like a legitimate win. At the same time, it's not a statement win. And that's what you're looking for. And good teams beat bad teams, but good teams don't often beat the great teams. And I think that's what we saw. But we do have this buy or sell from Big Daddy E, who says, buy or sell, this team has not taken on a real identity on either side of the ball. The so-called rushing offense emphasis has us bottom third of the league, and the physical defensive football only shows up against teams that are worse with no quarterback. So what are we exactly? David, I think there is some truth to this. I mean, I would buy that they haven't maybe fulfilled the identity yet. Like, I think they know what they want to be. I just don't necessarily think that they have the horses to do it. Like you brought up at the beginning of the show, Joe Ortiz did what he could. The Chargers know what they want to be, yet too often in games, the Chargers are still asking way too much of Justin Herbert. In the running game, I don't know where he's getting bottom 3. I don't know what metric he's looking at for that. They might not be bottom 3rd, but it's still been an underwhelming performance. 18th in yards per carry, 4th worst rushing grade as far as ball carriers per PFF. That's on the running backs, and I'm guessing most of them outside of J.K. Dobbins. 11th in run blocking, which is actually above average. 13th in yards per game. But it's definitely not a premier rushing attack. And then defensively, obviously, the Chargers have feasted on bad quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew, Bryce Young, Bo Nix, who's been pretty good, Spencer Rattler, Jameis Winston, and Will Levis. They did beat a good quarterback in Joe Burrow, but they also gave up a season high at that point in that win. So I get what he's saying there. Yeah, this team hasn't fully been able to kind of come through on the identity we know that they're trying to build towards.
I agree. Yeah, I think you listed off all the stats, so I'm not going to reiterate that. I think that the Chargers want their identity to be that they play physical, that they take care of the ball, that they limit their mistakes, and they lean on a very good defense. Like that's the identity that they want to have. But unfortunately, they have not had that identity, in full force across the season against good teams. And so I think, honestly, you can't say that you are a certain identity until you implement it and have success with it against another good football team who knows exactly who they are and the brand of football that they play. So I think it's still a work in progress. I think the Chargers have put the team and equipped Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh with as many pieces as their resources would allow them to have to formulate this identity in the form it can be in right now, but it is very much still a work in progress that the Chargers are going to continue to build out in this offseason when we know resources are going to be abundant.
Absolutely. And I mean, from the defensive side of things too, I don't know if they thought this was going to be a top run stopping unit in the NFL. I think they thought they'd be better, but Jesse Minter's defensive scheme runs with a lot of light boxes, and you're going to concede some of that. Yet 28th in yards per carry allowed isn't great. And I think maybe the volume has been a little bit inflated or maybe deflated by the fact that the Chargers have gotten up against so many bad teams that teams who have run the ball against them haven't really been able to do it enough because they're behind by so much. Because 15th in yards per game allowed doesn't sound that bad. But 28th in yards per carry allowed, especially if you're going up against teams that are committed to doing it, you're going to lose those games potentially, right? And you're going to get run over like we saw. But let's get to this one from Matthew. Maybe a little bit of a bright side to the loss on Monday. And he says, buy or sell, defensive coordinator Jesse Minter stays with the Chargers next season and heads out to be a head coach in 2026. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy this one as well. I think that honestly here, the Chargers are 1-3 against, quote unquote, good quarterbacks. I'm considering that to be Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. So that's 1-3 against the premier quarterbacks in the league. And also, his defense has given up 27 plus points in back-to-back weeks against two offenses we know to be elite offenses that can put up and score points in an absolute hurry. And I think that is a kind of a little bit of a warning sign for teams around the league that, hey, let's give this a little bit more time to kind of fill out all the way before we make any kind of, big assumptions on what Jesse Minter is going to be as a head coach. I have no doubt that he is going to be a head coach at some point. I just don't think it's going to be in 2025.
Yeah, and I don't want the last couple of games to kind of totally diminish what Jesse Minter's been able to do. I mean, it's not as if this Chargers defense hasn't struggled against bad quarterbacks in the past, right? I've seen this team lose to a guy named Duck Hodges, who isn't even in the league anymore. So I'm not going to take that for granted. 28.5 points allowed over the last couple of games after 13.1 going into that Bengals game. I mean, I sold that he was going to be a head coach a couple weeks ago, right? Even when they were kind of at their peak. I said, hey, let's wait to see what they do against the best offenses in the league, and then we'll have a good idea. I still think he probably will be a head coach, but I do think you have to think about the improvements in the development and actually getting the most out of your players. And it does feel like under Jesse Minter, whether or not he has enough is a discussion, and I would argue no in certain spots. But I would say that it does feel like at least he's maximizing what the guys he have can do. And I think that's really getting a lot compared to what we've seen the Chargers have to go through in the past. But we still have more great buy or sells to get into, including if it's time to move on from Quentin Johnston and we should give up on that project and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike on other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups, and you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is also the best way to get action in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I know for me, I'm going to be loading up on Thanksgiving turkey and all of the games going on and being on PrizePicks the entire day. So make sure you guys have PrizePicks for that. And all you have to do is download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get on PrizePicks to get that $50 instantly. When you play $5, you don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. I also need to tell you guys about Skylight, because if you want to celebrate and stay connected to the people in your family that are far away, or even your friends, and if you're just missing someone this holiday season and want them to be part of your festivities from afar, we have the perfect gift for you, because Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame for your whole family, and they will all love it because you can upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's really, really cool and has made my holiday shopping list a lot easier, because especially when you have a cute baby like I do, you can just get a Skylight Frame, upload the photos, and every person will stop bugging you for more pictures of your baby. And also you can just send it right to them. This is unlike any other digital picture frame out there. It's so much more, and it's the fastest and easiest way to keep up with your loved ones and keep them in the loop. It also looks beautiful in your home. Photos are displayed in HD resolution, and you can choose from 5 different frame styles. And it's why there's over 1 million happy customers with thousands of 5-star reviews. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, you can get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NFL. David, let's get into some more of these buy or sells with a lot of overreactions flying around. And I'd say the guy that's the easiest to overreact about and the most overreactions I've seen are about Quentin Johnston. We knew we were going to do something about Quentin Johnston today because there's a lot of overreactions out there. And we decided to go with this one. I mean, let's just put it like this, David. Sometimes it's as simple as this. The Chargers need to be done with Quentin Johnston after the performance on Monday night.
Absolutely not. This is the biggest sell on the show for me. I understand. I truly get how frustrating it is to watch a couple of plays where one in particular looks like it could have changed the trajectory of the game with that drop. I went back and watched it, as unfortunate as it was and how difficult it was.
You're a brave man.
The blocks set up for Quentin Johnston to take that ball probably close to the end zone. It was set up.
He probably has one man to beat, right? Depending on if a block gets to stand downfield. It's probably him versus one guy in the open field.
Absolutely. And the one thing that Quentin Johnston has done very well, a couple of things. He has generated more forced missed tackles this year than he did all of last year. According to PFF, he's done a lot of that from this year to last year. Quentin Johnston last year, 431 yards. He has 354 yards through 9 games. He's averaging 16.1 yards per reception. He only averaged 11.3 last year. He had 2 touchdowns last year. He has 6 through 9 games. His passer rating when targeted last year was 82.3. It is 120.4 this season. Quentin Johnston is unequivocally a better player than what he was last year. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. Is he still have things to work on? Of course. Is confidence one of those things? Definitely it is. We saw that manifest in front of our eyes when he dropped that pass. And according to PFF, he has 3 drops on the season. All of those came in the last game. So this is the biggest overreaction of the entire show. And I understand the frustration, but let's look at the totality of what Quentin Johnston has been for the Chargers this season and look at it from that kind of lens. And I think the picture starts to become a little bit clearer than what it looks like from what we watched on Monday night.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I meant to do this one from Overduo. Shout out Overduos. Buy or sell Chargers fans need to give QJ more time. Chargers switch up faster than most. One moment we were screaming for a QJ chant for first downs because we love him, and next time it's time to cut him. Unfortunately, that's the business, right?
Yeah.
And when you have a moment that bad in such a bright spotlight in a primetime football game on Monday night in a standalone game, it's going to be the reaction. This is my main thing with Quentin Johnston. I get it. He's a very, the confidence that he has plays a huge part in his game, more than most. I mean, you could say that about pretty much any player, but it's more than most. At this level, you can't let it spiral like he did after that drop. That's the most concerning thing to me, right? The most concerning thing is he couldn't let it go after that. Now, he's going to have a lot of chances to bounce back. The Chargers don't have any really other options right now other than to just hope that he can get better. Still averaging 7.4 yards after the catch per catch, which is more than anyone else on the team that has at least 10 catches.
By a lot.
Yeah, by a good amount. The next closest is Loudon McConkey. But I think the other thing with him is, hey, you got to stop using him on go routes and trusting him to go get it. Because it's not just the last game. Last game is brutal. 0 for 5 on the 5 targets that he had with 3 drops. The game before that, though, 2 for 8. Even though he had the touchdown, that's 2 for 13 when he's targeted over the last 2 games.
Yep.
That's 11 of Justin Herbert's incompletions. The last 2 games have been him throwing it to Justin Herbert or to Quentin Johnston. So I understand the frustration. I still think they have to use him better, but I do think it's not just the drops. It's the fact that he's not coming close to making any of these contested catches when he has the chance for it. Hopefully in this week they can give him some early chances to hopefully get his confidence up. But at this level, you can't spiral the way that he did. And if it continues to be like that, he's not going to be in the league for long. And that's just a fact. He has to be able to get, and it's been a lot better. Like you said, 0 drops going into this game. It's easy to forget that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It can't go the way like it did on Monday night. But the Chargers need him this year. But let's get to this next one from Steven Romo, who says, buy or sell, the Chargers should give DJ Chark a chance because we need a deep ball threat. And I've seen a lot of this sentiment out there. Shout out to everyone who had a buy or sell about DJ Chark. David, are you buying that? Do the Chargers, is it time to get DJ Chark on the field?
What are they waiting for? What are they not seeing out there? What do they really think that they're getting out of Jalen Reagor that he would not be able to provide? And here's the thing. With just like you just talked about, Quentin Johnston is not a contested catch wide receiver. It's just not in his skill set. His career contested catch percentage is 30.3%. Guess who DJ Chark? Well, DJ Chark has a much better contested catch percentage. He has a career contested catch percentage of 44.1%. And the last 2 seasons, it's over 50%. So when we're talking about a true 50-50 ball, go up and get it, contested catch receiver, that's more of what DJ Chark's skill set brings to the table. And it's obvious that this offense could use a jolt. It could use an infusion of some fresh legs and some ability to go up and get the ball, because Justin Herbert can go put it in a place where DJ Chark can go up and get it and snag it away from a defensive back. So that's what needs to happen. So absolutely, DJ Chark needs to be unleashed. No more waiting. Put him out there.
Yeah, I think the most concerning thing is that he hasn't been active over someone like Jalen Reagor, right? I mean, they're telling you what they're seeing, and you want to trust this coaching staff, and the coaching staff is telling you that Jalen Reagor is better than DJ Chark right now. That's tough, right? But I still think at the same, I think the one thing you could say is, okay, Jalen Reagor does play some special teams, right? So, and DJ Chark, that's definitely not his forte as an older veteran, not a guy that's played special teams, but we're talking about 16 snaps that he's played on special teams over the last 3 weeks. So it's hard to know that that's the absolute determining factor in it. Chark does have the deep speed and is good in contested catch situations. That's not, neither of those things is what Quentin Johnston has, right? The contested catch percentage this season from Josh Palmer is 40%, so less than 50%, and Quentin Johnston's at 27.3%.
Yeah, it's just awful.
That's not good. I mean, the best guy on the team, when it's Ladd McConkey,
Yeah.
the smallest of all of those guys.
Of course. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's so hard because obviously the coaches are telling you, right, that
Yeah,
the
there's
other
just got to
guys
be
are
stuff
better.
we just don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to say that without making kind of insinuating that there's, a bad thing that's happening in practice or something like that, and we don't know any of those things. But at the same time, the coaches are telling you right now that these are the best guys for the opportunity. It's just hard to imagine that a guy with that skill set couldn't help, especially with the way that they're playing offense in some of these games. But we still have more to get into, including the Chargers' need for playmaking options and how many long-term pass-catching options are actually on this roster, and if the Chargers, even after the loss on Monday night, can still get to 11 wins and guarantee themselves a playoff spot. We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys to get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. This FanDuel sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're placing your bets. The spread is now out for the Chargers game in Atlanta on Sunday. The Chargers are opening up as 1.5-point favorites against the Falcons in Atlanta, going East Coast, obviously. The over-under is currently set at 47.5 points, meaning they think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout again for the Chargers, and we'll see how they fare in this one. If you guys want to get in on that action, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet, so you can bet the Chargers in this game, and if you win on the money line, or if you bet them against the spread and win, you get that $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, David, well, it's time to get into more buy or sells here, and we have a Thier calling into the show, so we had to get into him. We're also going to talk about what kind of the macro looks like for the Chargers and where they can get this season. Can they get to that 11-win mark with the guys they have and the teams they have remaining on their schedule? But thank you to everyone for making us your first listen. As always, if you need a second listen, make sure to check out the new slate at Locked On NFL, where there's 2 shows a day. Tyler the Madman rolling, and also my boy Tony Wiggins in the barbershop, bringing on the local experts who cover their team every single day. And you can find that on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast from. David, a Thier, I think agrees with everyone. And when you look at this last game, that the Chargers are missing some firepower offensively, and it's something that has to get addressed.
Dan, David, my boys, this is Atia. My bio seller want to say is the Chargers need some serious consideration for a playmaker in the offseason. Not just a receiver, but a tight end. I'm buying it. What do you say? Thank you.
Athir, I think I can speak for both of us. I don't think there's a single Chargers fan that's going to hear that and disagree with that, and not even just the fact that it's just a wide receiver. Maybe there are people that are just gung-ho for a wide receiver, but I think you could also use an upgrade at the tight end position as well, especially considering the amount of jumbo packages and big personnels that Greg Roman's throwing out there. We both agree the Chargers need to add maybe not one, but multiple playmakers for this offense in the offseason. But I think, to me, the buy or sell this made me think of it here is this, right? The future of the Chargers. And that's why I came up with this one I wanted to add on to yours, which is just this. Buy or sell, Ladd McConkey is the only long-term receiving option on this roster right now. David, are you buying or selling that?
Yeah, I think right now, from what he has shown us from a consistency standpoint, really since he kind of put a Chargers uniform on and played a regular season game, he's proven that he can do the things that you want a receiver to do. Which
I'm 100% sold on Ladd McConkey.
Create separation, to have just unbelievably impeccable route running, to have strong hands, to be good in contested catch when your body type suggests that you should not be able to at all, has breakaway speed, is smart, knows when to get down, knows when not to take the big hits to protect himself and protect his body. Smart kid, good energy, great smile. I think he definitely has everything that you look for in a receiver that you want to invest in long term. And unfortunately, that is a huge indictment on the rest of the Chargers receiving room. Still very young, still has time to develop. But I think the way that we see it right now, Ladd McConkey is the only sure thing in the room.
Yeah, I'm buying it right now. And I'll touch on Quinton Johnston first, because as much as I hope that Quinton Johnston can bounce back and keep improving, I just don't think at this point, by any means, it's a certainty. I think you have to be hugely encouraged by the steps that he took up until this last game, and it's up to him to not let that last game define what his season is and have that be the kind of the norm as opposed to the outlier, which is exactly what it is right now. But then you look around the rest of that room, right? Joshua Palmer has been okay for spurts, but has not found the consistency and has had an incredibly tough time tracking down deep balls like he did last night.
Yeah.
He's also a 2025 free agent, right? Darius Davis is not a full-time wide receiver. Brendan Rice couldn't get on the field before he ended up on injured reserve. Jalen Reagor, 1-year deal. DJ Chark has been a healthy scratch a couple of times and played one snap in the game. He wasn't a healthy scratch. Also on a 1-year deal. That's not a lot. Ladd McConkey is the only guy right now that I think you look at and you say, hey, that dude is part of the foundation. That dude is part of the long-term future, whether it's a tight end, whether it's a wide receiver. They need to add to all that because Hayden Hurst isn't the answer. Stone Smart isn't the answer. Will Dissly is great, but he's overachieving for what he was brought in here to do. Get a playmaker at tight end. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be one of the best deals of any tight end contracts in the league. I mean, he's way outplayed what the Chargers are paying him. Yeah, I mean, he's been really, really awesome, and he's done much more than you could have expected. But yeah, you need multiple playmakers, and that's not it. The Chargers have a long laundry list of things that they're going to have to get in the offseason before they can take that next step and close the gap between the elites and the AFC. But let's get this next one here from Jackson, who says this: buy or sell, the Chargers still finish with 11 wins this season. This is a tough one, David. You buying or selling it?
Well, I'm buying it. I said before the end of the season, or I said before the season even started, that the Chargers were going to win 11 games.
I think I said 10, yeah? Did I say 10? Yeah, you said 11?
Yeah, you said 10, yeah. I'm going to stick with it. I still feel like that is definitely achievable. They're 7-4 here through 11 games. They have 6 games left on the slate. The Falcons, the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Patriots, and, of course, the Raiders. So out of those, I think 4 of those should be, pretty good wins, okay? I feel like the Falcons, the Bucks, I think that's a tough game, but I feel like the Chargers can win that game. The Patriots and Raiders, I expect them to beat both those teams easily. The Broncos team, now, with the way Bo Nix is playing and the way that they've been kind of, rounding into form, it's a tougher game than it was earlier in the season.
Not a layup.
It's not anywhere close to a layup, but I do feel like the Chargers are very capable of winning 4 of those 6 games to get to 11 wins.
I think I'm selling it. I'll stick with my, preseason prediction. You stick with your preseason prediction. It just feels like, I think maybe if the Chargers, obviously if they had won that, much easier to buy. I'd be buying it all the way if they won on Monday night. If I knew they were going to win this weekend for sure, I would take that and I would say, hey, the very good chance the Chargers can get to 11
it's a swing
wins.
game for that. Yeah.
It's a huge game. I mean, if they don't win this, I don't think they get there flat out. If they do win this one, I think they can. But since that game is still pending, I'm going to go ahead and sell it for right now. 4 wins out of at the Falcons, at the Chiefs, home against the Buccaneers, home against the Broncos. That's the nice thing about the Broncos game. At least you're getting them at home and you already won that game a mile high, right? Raiders and Patriots should be wins because those are bad teams. I think the hard thing is those are the only bad teams I think they have left. Like the Buccaneers, especially now with Mike Evans back and they've been a high-flying offense, that's not a bad team, right? And they showed you by beating up on a bad Giants team over the weekend. The Falcons are not a bad team. They're just a bipolar team. You just don't know which version of them. I'm excited because I will be making my crossover debut tomorrow of the season. Locked on Chargers, Locked on Falcons. Talking with Aaron Freeman about that because I don't know. It's hard to say if they win this, it's a statement win because you don't know which Falcons team is going to show up. But yeah, I think they could be favorites in every single game outside of the Chiefs game. But that probably changes if they lose to Atlanta this weekend. But there's a good chance out of their last 6 games, they're favorites in 5 of them. And they have taken care of business for the most part when they've been favorites outside, I think, of the Cardinals game. It's probably the only game that they were favored to win that they didn't end up winning. I know they were underdogs against the Steelers and the Chiefs. And then I think they were definitely underdogs last week. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible. I'd say it's more probable that they get to 10 wins. And then if you get to 10 wins with, a surging Dolphins team, a Broncos team that you can take care of business with and, basically control your own destiny against them in that next game coming up. We'll see what happens. It doesn't guarantee you anything, though. But let's get to this next one here from Chris Saiz, who says, buy or sell, Chargers fans / content creators, is that me, are overreacting to the Chargers losing to maybe the best team in the AFC. David, you buying or selling that?
I'm going to sell it. I don't think it's an overreaction. I feel like this is a game, an opportunity to make a statement that you're going to be able to win against a good quality football team with a great quarterback that, that knows it's going to the playoffs. Like, you're going to have to play these teams. You're going to have to beat these teams if you want to be able to make any noise in the playoffs and get where you ultimately want to go, which is obviously winning a Super Bowl. So I don't think it's an overreaction. I feel like it was a big showcase opportunity that, once again, the Chargers were not able to take care of.
Yeah, I get that. And like, I think the thing is you're thinking about your own take, right? And you're not thinking about Chargers fans and content creators as a whole.
Right.
So I would buy that. Overall, the sentiment that I've seen out on social media, right, has definitely been an overreaction. And I think there's always going to be some overreaction like a game we saw. I know that for sure Chris was not thrilled when I said the Chargers got bullied, right? And whether or not the Ravens do that to a lot of teams doesn't matter. Just because the Ravens bully a lot of people doesn't mean you didn't also get bullied.
And they did.
That's just the facts of it. And Chris, I appreciate you always asking questions. You always ask really good questions.
Thank you.
And we don't have to agree on that. But I would agree on you that, yes, I mean, sometimes it can be as simple as you lost to a better team and a team that's maybe the best team in the AFC. Hard to sell that because they have 4 wins, or 4 losses, I should say. But like I said that going in, I thought it was the toughest team, the Chargers will play on their schedule this year.
Yeah.
And the Ravens are the best team in the sense that on a good night, they can beat anyone in the league. And that's just true. But I do think there are a lot of overreactions out there. Yet at the same time, to your point, I don't think it's an overreaction to say that the Chargers are a tier below the top teams in the AFC. And that's what we learned on Monday night. Last one here, David. Quickly, buy or sell this. The Chargers should never wear the Navy uniforms again.
I'm buying it. 0-6 in the Navies. I don't know why they got rid of the Royal Blues, which
the Royal Blues
my
are
favorite
sweet.
color. And also, they're 3-1 all time in the Royal Blues. Get rid of the Navies, bring back the Royals, and let's call it a day.
I love that, man. I loved those color rush Royals. I loved it. Definitely a throwback. I think like 60s or something, 70s maybe. But man, maybe this is the maybe this is what we do instead. The Chargers are now 0-6 in the Navy uniforms, and I know that jerseys are not the reason that teams lose, but at the same time, I'm a huge sports fan and I'm a little superstitious. So I don't love the 0-6. Yeah, I don't love the 0-6 in the Navy jerseys. Maybe this is what you do. Switch them up a little bit. You change them a bit to the uniforms that Jim Harbaugh was wearing when he was a Charger. Let's go white tops. Let's go Navy pants. Let's go Navy helmet, like the one David's showing you right there. That's how you break the curse. But that is going to wrap things up for today's show. Make sure you guys are back here for my crossover debut tomorrow. Locked on Chargers, Locked on Falcons, crossover Thursday, and a huge pivotal swing game for the Chargers this weekend. And make sure you don't miss it. Go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked on Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find the show every day on our social media. You can find it on our Twitter at LockedOnLAC, where a lot of you sent your buy or sells today. You can find us on Instagram at Locked on Chargers and our Locked on Chargers Facebook page. You can also find me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports until my Blue Sky account gets up, I guess, or David on Twitter at DroTalkSD. But big game this weekend. Excited, thankful for all of your fans on a week that we should all be thankful for everyone that we love, and I love you guys, and we'll be back with you guys tomorrow for my debut on Crossover Thursday. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.